Mamkasiva Zimbabwe, I want to talk very quickly about the August 1 killings in Zimbabwe and the attempt at a very clumsy cover-up to cover up those killings and to sweep them under the carpet. First of all, I'm going to allow you to listen to a phone call recording of the Vice President, General Chiwenga. And I'm also going to let you listen very quickly. These will be short snippets. I'll let you listen to the comments by the President himself, Emmerson Mnangagwa, on the night, on the very night of the killings, and what he said. Then afterwards, I'll come back very quickly, then give context and move on to the more important issues.
Yes, sir.
Where do you get your information?
VP, Vice President, sir. Pane ma live videos. Pane BBC Al Jazeera yanga iripo marare nezuro. Ma journalists akarowa.
Now listen.
Yes, sir.
No, if ukada jurisdiction kashamwa. Atis wanani. Only can order sequence of events. One day the defense force end up after 3 people had been killed by this hurricane.
Vachiwenga pane masoja akafilma vachiridza pfuti. Pane masoja varipo vari kuridza pfuti apo. Vachiridza pfuti.
The opposition aimed this alliance and its whole leadership responsible for this disturbance of national peace, which was meant to disrupt the electoral process. Equally, we hold the party and its leadership responsible for any loss of life that arises from these acts of political violence, which they have aided and abetted.
So you've just heard the Vice President of Zimbabwe speaking to a journalist. He was recorded on the phone with a journalist called Simba. He didn't know that he was being recorded. And he says to the journalist, "You have the sequence wrong." What actually happened is that these civilians were not killed by the military, but they were killed by opposition hooligans. And the military was coming in to rescue them. The military was coming in to save them. This is what the Vice President of our country says. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace for a country that has universities, a country that has people who claim to be educated. Our Vice President, this is what he says. You've also had a chance to listen to the President on the very evening of those killings. And he said, he was unequivocal. He said, "I blame the opposition. I blame Nelson Chamisa." This is what he said. But that's before social media and the international media, which had managed to record videos of these things, started publishing them. And then he's now being forced to pull back and talk about a commission of inquiry to figure out what actually happened. And that's specifically what I want to talk about. It's important that Zimbabweans have full information and clarity on this issue and to call them out in a major, big way. The reason why the British ambassador, Catriona, continues to do what she does is because she's hiding. She's argunjenga behind propaganda. But it's important to be very precise with our information in such a way that the light is so strong that you can't hide. Now, Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is the president of Zimbabwe, has been asked numerous times by journalists. His office, Fana George Charamba, have been asked numerous times to explain who deployed the soldiers, the unit of the military that killed up to 10 people. We now know that it's up to 10 people, not 3 people who were killed on that day. He has consistently said that he does not know. And he's now promised that he's going to appoint a commission of inquiry to investigate. Now, this is patently absurd for the simple reason that it's an attempt by Mnangagwa to weave a very elaborate web of lies, to find time to sweep this under the carpet. For the simple reason that Emmerson Mnangagwa is the commander-in-chief of the defense forces. Valerio Sibanda is the commander of the defense forces of Zimbabwe. Now, if you tell me that the Commander-in-Chief, the Command of the Defense Forces, together with the Command of the Defense Forces, Valerio Sibanda, are unable to identify soldiers who were filmed on camera, whose pictures were taken, and I'm putting up a picture right now on screen of one of the soldiers. They tell us they don't know who he is. But we know from social media, and I'm not going to name him for legal reasons, we know on social media that he has been conclusively identified. His name has been published. His address has been published. His mobile number has been published. His date of birth has been published. This is simply by on social media. If Mnangagwa wants to know who commanded this young man and gave him an unlawful order to kill those protesters, because soldiers are highly disciplined, they would not shoot unless they had been given an instruction to shoot. We understand, we're informed that the intent was to simply kill two people. It got out of control. But if Mnangagwa or the commander of the Defense Forces, Valerio Sibanda, want to know who deployed that unit of the military, which is believed to be part of the Presidential Guard, they simply need to interview this young man. The suggestion that you can set up a civilian commission of inquiry, bring in a foreigner, perhaps Kofi Annan, and he will be able somehow to penetrate Zimbabwe's military and find out who this young man is and get him to talk, but the commander of the Defense Forces and the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the Republic, is unable to do this. It is complete nonsense. And it shows you that these men are primitive. It shows you that these men think we're fools. Mnangagwa, we're not fools. And we can see exactly what you're trying to do. Now, it's very possible that this was a rogue unit of the military, that there is someone in the shadows who is doing something to destabilize the country. That's a possibility, very remote, but I doubt kuti pakati pa president na vice president pavo, they don't know what's going on. Na command of the Defense Forces, Valerio Sibanda. If it is the case that this is a rogue unit, one of these individuals has been conclusively identified. We know his name, we know his date of birth, we know where he lives, we know his phone number. Now, why don't you court-martial him? If zvakaita zvisiri pamutemo, why don't you court-martial him? There's his face right on screen. Mnangagwa, George Charamba, the spokesman, who's covering up these lies and is trying to be very smart. This is the young man who shot some of those protesters. Why don't you court-martial him? You will not court-martial him because you're trying to cover it up. You might actually kill that young man because you know if he talks, you end up in jail. So you know exactly what's going on. You're trying to buy time. And what will happen is you'll set up a commission of inquiry where you've got some Shing Chong Chong guy who will come, he's in your pocket, he will say a lot of inconclusive nonsense that will get nowhere. And this is what you're trying to do. I think it's important, Patashika Ejiri, for our people to rise up and be counted. And when I talk about rising up, I'm not talking about a demonstration or a protest, but I'm talking about the voice. We can't allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. Kutititwe mapenzi na Mnangagwa na Chiwenga. It's a joke. We can't allow ourselves, as my newspaper editors, as my intellectuals at my universities, as business people, to allow the ZBC, the Herald, to weave completely idiotic nonsense to tell us that when there's a picture of a person who did this, the president, the vice president, the commander of the Defense Forces, Valerio Sibanda, will tell us and expect us to accept that we don't know who this person is, when all of us know who that person is. To finish off, I want to talk very quickly about Tendai Biti. There was an attempt to abduct him. I understand that he's now safe and they will not be able to get to him. But the reason why they're going after Tendai Biti while they're trying to go after people like Patson Zamara is very simple. Nelson Chamisa, at the end of the day, could be charismatic. He could be a very great speaker. He could be charming. But at the end of the day, he's a human being. He needs the support of other people around him. Vanamonzora, they are plotting, and I'm going to touch very briefly on this, on Manzora. They are plotting and trying, Vanamonzora, Vanamudzuri, Vana Hebson, Makuise, they are plotting to try and take the party from Nelson. So they're not supporting him, which is why you find that Douglas Monzora has been very quick to come out and to say things in an almost subtle way, but somewhat transparent, to say, Mugabe, and try to create this nonsense connection between Grace Mugabe and Nelson Chamisa. What Douglas Monzora will not tell you, and he says he's always been against Mugabe, what Douglas Monzora won't tell you is that he was the lead negotiator who came to negotiate with NPF, Mugabe's party. Now, Jelas Mawarire has published a picture of Douglas together with Linda outside that meeting, having a chat. They didn't look unhappy at all. I'm going to pop that picture up on screen very quickly. They didn't look unhappy at all. And this kind of hypocrisy, Nelson is alone. The few people that he has, Ndivo Vanatenda IBT, Vanapatson Zamara, and so on. Now, when you want to weaken a man, you take away his support structures. Now, if they take Tendai Biti away, even if they just put him to remand prison, it will shake Nelson. Which is why you find the nonsense that these guys will say, Tukutraga Tendai Biti, we're looking for Tendai Biti. But the question is, did Tendai Biti shoot anyone? The real crisis that Zimbabwe is facing is who deployed the military on that day. The president seems not to know. The vice president seems not to know. The command of the defense forces seems not to know. So the real problem that the police, if they're competent, should be investigating is who deployed the military. The suggestion that we need to investigate who encouraged people to go out and protest could be interesting, but not when compared to people who've shot and killed. Shot people in the back, by the way, and killed 10 people. So we must make a lot of noise. We must expose them for what they're trying to do. Kunatendai, he has committed no crime. He's a lawyer. He's a man who's very careful. He's been in the game for the past 20 years. He would not have been foolish. And it's important that all of us speak out. And Tendai, thank you again. Please, let's share this video. Let's get the information out there. And let's take these guys to the cleaners. Datenda.